Peasant Productions presents the math of ESP, why it works even if you don't believe in it. Gonna kind of sidestep, and at the same time I'm gonna continue with cooking the goose that lays the golden egg instead of being patient and letting it all come to you. As I say, you've got all of this stuff here. It's very easy to see that are oblivious to your survival. You're not looking at it. You're not seeing it there. It's going to be a very big nasty ball that's dropping on you. And what I've done here is I've got basically a very fast little drawing here. Consider this to be, a cutout of the Earth's core. Here's some mountains, here's ocean, here's some more mountains again, type of thing. Okay, and this is the crust layer. Under the crust, you have the various levels of what is considered from the core to the top of the mantle, which is all of the lava that you see flowing out of your volcanoes and stuff like that. The thing here is in no way to scale. I mean, this to scale what you have here would be just this little tiny thin thing here. At 36,000 miles in diameter around it, you have this thin crust up at the top that is where humans basically live, work, breathe, do stuff, along with the rest of life, okay? And it includes your oceans, okay? So you're not getting away from anything, but what I want to do here is I'm going to have a little bit of fun, because one of the conspiracy theories out there is the expanding Earth conspiracy theory. Now, like I said, people don't like to take everything into consideration. It's CO2. It's methane. It can't be CO2 and methane. It's either CO2 or it's methane. Excuse me? Both are produced. When vegetation rots, it creates methane. If you have millions of square miles of Arctic tundra that is now being scraped up, shoveled off to one side so the tar sands can be there, or even more exhausting in the idea of how much area is covering, you have every summer more and more of this Arctic tundra which is thawing out and therefore going through the phases of rotting vegetation because it had been frozen for who knows how many thousands of years, type of a thing. It's getting around to dying and rotting and producing methane. It's also releasing a little bit of CO2. It's releasing quite a bit of other stuff as well, including nutrients into the soil. But it is both methane and CO2 that are a part of the whole equation. If we go over here and look at this for a second, you have A equals A. If you have a whole equation, folks, you have to consider everything. Now, like I said, in the old fable about the goose that laid the golden egg, the farmer gets greedy and decides he wants all of it all at once. And he finds that he's killed his goose and he's got nothing. You are in somewhat the same way, because if you have an expanding core and there are numerous different things that add energy to that core that are also out there in the conspiracy area, not because they're conspiracies and they're full of foolishness. Okay, flat Earth people, that's foolishness. That you're looking at more than just a flat Earth, and you're not looking from San Francisco Bay to Hong Kong, which on a flat Earth has to absolutely be possible because a telescope or a telescopic camera lens will see that far. The human eye might not, but I guarantee you a 4,000 or 5,000 power telescope is going to see from San Francisco Bay sitting on top of the bridge straight across a flat Earth to Hong Kong. Absolutely nothing in the way other than clouds, which means you just sit there and put a 24-hour video running, and somewhere in there you're going to have clear shot across. You're going to be able to see Hong Kong. So end of the idea that they can prove anything, because the first thing they do is they disprove themselves. But the problem is that you have other theories that do make sense, like the grand solar minimum. The sun is quieting down. You are seeing a lot less solar bursts. You are seeing a different type of the coronal holes, which are having energy ejections, but they are not the ones that science is used to really studying. So what those effects on your planet is basically unknown. The magnetic North Pole is moving. Now, since it is just simply some kind of an object that no human has ever seen, you know, we could take just a regular magnet and push it around up there. You know, the people that are saying there's a pole reversal, well, you know, there's both scientific evidence of a pole reversal at all that took thousands of years to do, and then there is also scientific evidence of a lava flow or two where some kind of pole reversal happened, where you actually have, in just the layers of lava that came out during a very short period of time, you see the pole reversal in the crystallization behind. So pole reversal is an absolute. It is possible. The weakening of the magnetic field is 100% guaranteed. If you have a pole reversal, you're going to have your magnetic fields weaken and change. Those magnetic fields do encompass your planet, and therefore they deflect, bend, change, alter, and channel in energy coming from off of that sun there that is constantly blasting. But the thing is that some part of this planet is always getting hit by sunlight, with the exclusion, of course, of you know, some kind of a lunar eclipse happening, and then that's only a certain area that gets shadowed. You never have the entire planet covered and kept from seeing sunlight. So the idea is quite simply that your planet is collecting solar energy. That energy, just for the silliness of it, we're going to say goes in at the poles, you know, where your magnetic fields are coming in, okay? And they're going to obviously meet up at the core. If you have more core energy, you're going to heat up that core. If the core heats up, the heat's going to go upward. It's going to get hotter. If this is the bottom of your seabed here, and you are normally, and yes, anybody that studies mining, you know, after you get, I believe it's 100 or 200 feet down, you start noticing that the temperature is increasing in the ground and the soil below you. And of course, the very deep mines that are miles down, they have to have air conditioning. So it gets very hot down there, which means there's a heat source below it. You have volcanoes, which eject all kinds of mass. And again, like I said, you know, 2015, when I was told to hit the recycling button, I believe there was about 20 to 25 volcanoes going. It's now 2019, and you have like 50 majorly erupting volcanoes, which means you are producing at least twice as much sulfur dioxide as you were 3 years ago. Okay? Like I said, sulfur dioxide, upper atmosphere it cools it, lower atmosphere it heats it up. You're heating it up over oceans and water bodies is obviously going to pick up more moisture. If you're sending up heat from this direction, it's going to heat things up. You're also going to put more moisture. You're going to build more formulation of clouds here. You're going to have a very cold upper level atmosphere. You're going to have the natural occurring convection of heat rising and cold sinking, which means you will be increasing the power of your storms exponentially. Okay? Now, at the same time this heat's going up, this is going to have to expand. Standard physics, law of heat and dynamics, and thermodynamics is the word I'm looking for. Okay? It's going to have to push outward, which means you're going to have an expanding crust. What happens with an expanding crust? Well, you have more capacity for cracks to let lava through, for volcanoes to wake up. You have more pressure down here trying to find a way, so you have more volcanoes erupting. You have more geysers and more sea vents and things like that as well. So quite possibly we could be having anywhere from 2 to 4, maybe even 6 times as much sulfur dioxide being released into both the oceans, which is acidifying it, which acidity has a tendency to heat up water when you mix with it. There are little pockets here and there of life that are surviving. A whole new thing happening. You also have all of these toxic chemicals. Like I said, you have not got away from the chemicals, you have not got away from the dead plants, you have not got away from them dumping who knows how many millions of tons of uranium and plutonium into the oceans, into the deep trenches to keep it cold and out of sight so it's safe. And again, like I said, people are throwing stuff in. They're telling you, oh, the barrel will last for 50 years. You don't have to worry about it. It's safe. You look at the half-life of plutonium. 125,000 years? And you're going to say it's safe by putting it in a 50-year barrel? Yeah. So you've got this. Then you've got the expanding theory in there. You've got the increased heating of the core, which is another theory out there. You have the sulfur dioxide, you have CO2, you have methane, because you have all of this vegetation and stuff in the oceans that is dying. And it is becoming a methane conversion organic material. Also getting a lot hotter. So that's why I put, you've got the arrow here, you got heat going up, and I do the and sign, and I have to put it over here and double it so you understand. There's 2 different components that are working together. You're increasing volcanoes, oh yeah, you're also increasing earthquakes, because as it expands, the cracks are opening up. What do you have coming in all over the world right now? Cracks are appearing everywhere. You have sinkholes appearing everywhere, partially because of the huge amount of rain coming down, and partially because of places like Iran and up in Siberia areas and stuff like that, from having drained the aquifers underneath. I do expect to see the Midwest of the United States start having some really major calamities. Of just large volumes of land falling because they have, just really depleted that aquifer in that basin, and now they have this huge tonnage of snow and ice and water literally pressing down on the surface, and they've got all of that cavernous area underneath that is being weakened. And yeah, we are seeing the beginnings of people talking about earthquakes up of USGS and other places, showing that from Maine all the way across to California, there's earthquakes happening now, and you're almost on a daily basis seeing one of these things happen. Mount St. Helens, it has a volcanic dome growing at 5 meters a day. That's a pretty good growth rate. Yellowstone, they've just about completely shut down all data coming out of that because there is so much happening there that shows that there is a huge rise and a huge pressure and huge amounts of extremely hot material pushing up underneath. Yellowstone, those are just starting to have a whole swarm of earthquakes, and then you see an ash plume or a steam plume, or like Popo and Stromboli, you can see some really beautiful explosions of lava going 2 or 3 kilometers up in the air, and big fireballs going all the way up. They're pretty impressive. One thing, you're basically killing your goose that laid the golden egg, because you're not remembering that you got to feed the goose. You're not remembering you got to take care of it. You got to make certain it doesn't get in trouble anywhere. It's got water, all the extras, and most of the world is behaving that way, where as long as they got their money in their hand, like President Reagan said, I got my piece of pie. The heck with the rest of you. You can have mud. It's not a matter of joining me, folks. It's a matter of your whole planet coming together. And Rainbow Warriors are all the continents working together. And just simply, hey, We're all here. We're all on one planet. We all got one thing to do. Page 67.